Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you about questions and negative sentences. Now, there are certain rules that would help you to be able to formulate questions and negative sentences. The first rule is use do, does, or did plus the first verb form to formulate a question or a negative question. So, if you want to formulate a question, if you want to ask a question, if you want to write a question, or if you want to ask someone a question, then begin your sentence with do or does or did plus the first verb form. And if you want to formulate a negative question or ask a negative question, then use do, does, or did plus the first form of the verb. And what I mean by the first verb form is the base of the verb. In other words, it is the verb before it changes. It is the original form of the verb. Like, for example, cook, play, eat, sleep, jump, kick. Okay? All those are examples of verbs in their original form. That is, in the first verb form, or what we call the base form. Okay? Before the verb changes into different tenses. Like, for example, the verb eat. Okay? Cook, jump, cook, cooks, cooked. Now, that verb has changed to different forms, but its original form is cook. Okay? So, you want to formulate a question or you want to formulate a negative question. You want to ask somebody a question or you want to ask a negative question. Then all you have to do is begin your sentence with do or does or did plus the original form of the verb. Let us look at how to do that. Look at examples 1 on the right. Example 1a. Do you know where he lives? Do you know where he lives? Do you know where he lives? So you begin with do, and then obviously you use the personal pronoun depending on which is you. In the next sentence it is he. In the next sentence it is they. And in the last sentence it is she. Do you know where he lives? Do you know where he lives? So you have do plus your relative pronoun, and then you have know. Okay, so it is do plus know. Do you know where he lives? I could also say, do I know where he lives? Or do they know where he lives? Or does she know where he lives? Okay, do you know where he lives? Example B. Doesn't he call you often? Doesn't he call you often? So example B is a negative question. Doesn't he call you often? In the positive form, it would be, does he call you often? But then when we change it to negative, then we say, doesn't he call you often? Remember, does, doesn't is a combination of does and not. Yeah? Does he call you often? Doesn't he call you often? Does he not call you often? Does he not call you often? That is the longer way of saying it. Does he not call you often? But in this case, because it's spoken language, we use a contracted form, doesn't. Doesn't he call you often? Doesn't he call you often? But it is also correct to say, does he not call you often? Now, in that sentence, once more, you have does plus call. Call is the original form of the verb, just as no in the first example. Example C. Did they return your car? Did they return your car? Did they return your car? Did he return your car? Did she return your car? Did you return his car? Okay, did plus return. Then you have D. Example 1, D. Didn't she tell you her secret? Didn't she tell you her secret? Now that is a negative question. Didn't she tell you her secret? A positive one would be, did she tell you her secret? Did she tell you her secret? Okay, so to formulate a question or to be able to ask a question in English or ask a negative question, you can begin the sentence with do, does, or did, plus the first verb form, okay? But remember, between do, for example, and no in example 1a, we have the personal pronoun you. Okay? So do not forget that, because you can't say, do you know where he lives? No. Do you know where he lives? Yeah. Do they know where he lives? So use the correct personal pronoun. Now, rule number 2. Rule number 2 is that rule number 1 above, that is rule number 1. We have just looked at rule number 1. Rule number 1 does not apply if there is any form of the verb to be in the sentence. So, you can apply rule number 1 to formulate a question or ask a negative question, but you can't apply rule number 1 if there is any form of the verb to be in the sentence. So if the sentence that you're changing from positive to negative or from one tense to another, if that sentence has got any form of the verb to be, then you cannot apply rule number 1. How do we do this? Look at example 2a. Are you sure? Are you sure? Now, in that sentence, we have the verb to be, which is are. Are. In the next sentence you have, is he not coming with us? Is he not coming with us? So in that sentence you have is. Is an example of a form of the verb to be. And then example 2a, the last one is, were you angry with me? Were you angry with me? Were you angry with me? So in that sentence also, you have were, which is an example of the verb form to be. Now, look at the tip. I have given you a tip at the bottom of the board. It is in red. Forms of the verb to be are am, are, is, was, were, be, being, and been. So if you want to formulate a question, if you want to ask a question in English, you have two choices. You can either begin the sentence with do, does, or did, or you can begin the sentence with any form of the verb to be. Are you sure? Is he not coming with us? Were you angry with me? Was he not here a minute ago? Okay. Am I not being honest? Okay. So, you have two choices. Either begin your sentence with do, does, or did, or begin your sentence with any form of the verb to be. But you cannot combine does, do, does, or did and any form of the verb to be in the sentence. No, it's either one or the other. Now, look at rule number 2b. Rule number 1 also does not apply if there is a modal verb in the sentence. A modal verb is also an auxiliary verb. I have uploaded 3 videos about modal verbs. Feel free to check those videos to familiarize yourself with modal verbs. So, rule number 1 does not apply if there is a modal verb in the sentence. And some examples of modal verbs are can, could, might, and have to. Okay? So, let us look at the examples of how to apply that rule. Look at examples 2b on the right. Can you remember his name? Can you remember his name? So, you begin the sentence with the modal auxiliary can. The next one, could you shut the door, please? Could you shut the door, please? You begin that sentence with the modal auxiliary could. The next one, I have not met him before. I have not met him before. Now, that is an example of a negative sentence. And I have used the modal auxiliary have not. I have not met him before. The next example, he might not call you later. He might not call you later. So that is also an example of a negative sentence, and I have used the modal auxiliary might in that sentence, and then I have combined it with not. The previous sentence could be, I have met him before. That is a positive sentence. I have met him before. If, for example, you're doing a test and you have been asked to change sentences into negative sentences, then all you have to do is add the word not. Okay? Just after the verb, add the word not. For example, example 2b, the third one, I have not met him before. That sentence, if it was not negative, it would be, I have met him before. I have not met him before. The next example, he might not call you later. If it was a positive sentence, then it would be, he might call you later. But to change that sentence into a negative sentence, then I add the word not. He might not call you later. He might not call you later. And the questions to be at the top, can you remember his name? Change that question into a negative question. Then it would be, can you not remember his name? Can you not remember his name? The next one, could you shut the door, please? If I was to change that sentence, that question into a negative question, then I would say, could you not shut the door, please? Could you not shut the door, please? Okay? Now, let us move on to rule number 2C. Rule number 1, which we looked at, does not apply if there is who, what, which, how many are, okay? If you have these words, who, what, which, how many, as the subject of the sentence, then you do not use rule number 1. And what is the subject of a sentence? The subject of a sentence is what the sentence is talking about. Okay? It is what the subject, it is what the sentence is talking about. So if you have the words who, what, which, how many, okay, as the subject of the sentence, then you cannot apply rule number 1. Okay? How do you apply that rule? Look at example 2C. What happened next? What happened next? So I'm beginning the question with what, okay? The next one is, what did he say? What did he say? Again, I'm beginning the sentence with the word what. The next one, who do you visit every evening? Who do you visit every evening? I'm beginning the sentence with the word who. Now, these words, we call them, that is who, what, which, we call these words relative pronouns. Relative pronouns. I have uploaded a video about relative pronouns. Feel free to have a look at that video if you want to learn more about relative pronouns, how we use them, and when we use them. Okay, so if I was to summarize the rules so far for you, when you want to ask a question in English, you can begin your sentence with do, does, or did. That is one choice. The second choice is to begin your sentence with any form of the verb to be. For example, in example 2, so you can begin with are, you can begin with is, you can begin with were, you can begin with was, okay? The third thing is that you can ask a question in English by beginning the sentence with a modal verb, like can, could, okay? Like for example, in example 2b. And finally, you can ask a question in English by beginning the sentence with a relative pronoun, which is what we have in rule number 2C, who, what, which. Okay? What happened next week? Which car did you buy? What did you tell him? Okay? Those are some examples. And this brings me to rule number 3. When you want to change a sentence from negative to positive, simply use not. So use not to change a sentence from positive to negative. Look at examples 3 on the right. He is my brother. He is not my brother. So I'm changing the sentence, he is my brother, to a negative sentence by saying he is not my brother. She came back. She did not come back. She did not come back. It is raining. It is not raining. They are playing. They are not playing. Okay? So to change a sentence from positive to negative, you simply have to add the word not. Okay? You simply have to add the word not. And if you have to change a question from positive to negative, you also simply have to add not. Look at the examples we have in 1. Do you know where he lives? Now, I'll change that to a negative question. Do you not know where he lives? Example B is already a negative question because we have not. Doesn't he call you often? The next one, did they return your car? I'll change that to a negative question. Did they not return your car? And then 1D is already negative. Didn't she tell you her secret? Then 2A, are you sure? Will become, are you not sure? Then the next example, is he not coming with us, is already negative. Then, were you angry with me? Will become, were you not angry with me? Then examples 2B, can you remember his name? I'll change that to a negative question. Can you not remember his name? The next one, could you shut the door please? Will become, could you not shut the door please? Then the next one, I have not met him before, is already negative. The next one, he might not call you later. That is already negative because we have the word not. Okay? So, if you want to change a sentence from negative to positive, then you remove the word not. Like for example, 1D. Didn't she tell you her secret? If I change that sentence to positive, I will just remove the word not, and it will be, did she tell you her secret? Did she tell you her secret? And then example 1B. If I want to change it to positive, I will just remove the word not. So instead of saying, doesn't he call you often? Then the sentence will be, does he call you often? I just remove the word not. Now, this brings me to the end of this lesson. I hope you found the lesson useful and informative. I hope you now know how to ask questions in English. Remember, you can either use do, does, or did at the beginning of your sentence, or you can ask your question using a modal, verb. You can begin your sentence with can, could, and so on, or you can begin your sentence with a relative pronoun such as who, what, which, how many, and so on. And finally, if you want to change a sentence to a negative sentence, then you simply add the word not. Okay, now please do subscribe to the channel that will help me grow the channel, that will encourage me to continue uploading more videos to help you improve your English. Thank you very much and see you in my next lesson. Bye bye.